We all know someone who seems endlessly kind, always accommodating, and forever putting others first. Maybe that someone is you. You're the dependable one, the go-to, the yes person. On the outside, it looks like generosity, but inside, quiet resentment, mounting exhaustion, and a growing sense that your own life is passing you by. People-pleasing is often praised as being selfless, but what's rarely talked about is the emotional toll it takes when you chronically abandon yourself to meet everyone else's needs. It doesn't happen all at once. It sneaks in. A small favor here, a silent agreement there. Before long, you're living someone else's version of your life, wondering why you feel invisible in your own story. People-pleasing isn't just a bad habit. It's often a survival strategy learned early. As kids, we quickly pick up that approval equals safety. A smile from a parent, a gold star from a teacher, a friend who doesn't leave when we agree with everything they say. We learn to anticipate others' needs before they're even spoken, and while that might have protected us back then, the same behavior becomes a trap in adulthood. You say yes when you want to say no. You offer help when you're already overwhelmed. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny just to keep the peace. Over time, your own needs start to feel like an inconvenience, even to yourself. You become so attuned to others' emotions that your own start to feel unfamiliar. That disconnection is the hidden cost, the quiet erasure of your inner voice, masked by politeness and smiles. One of the most painful parts of people-pleasing is that it often goes unnoticed by everyone except you. From the outside, you're admired for being thoughtful, generous, and reliable. But on the inside, you're stuck in a loop of emotional overextension. You start to feel like your worth is tied to your usefulness. If you're not helping, fixing, or making someone else's life easier, then who are you? That quiet question haunts a lot of people pleasers, and it's terrifying. So instead of confronting it, you double down. You offer more of yourself. You give more time, more energy, more agreement, until you're drained, confused, and bitter. But you don't say anything, because saying something would mean risking conflict, and conflict feels like rejection. So you keep smiling while you silently disappear. Ironically, the very thing you're trying to avoid, disconnection, is what people-pleasing creates. When you prioritize everyone else's emotions over your own, you rob people of the chance to actually know you. They fall in love with a version of you that doesn't really exist, the agreeable, adaptable version you crafted for survival. And that leads to a deep, quiet loneliness. Even when you're surrounded by people, you can feel unseen, because they only know the mask. They don't know your boundaries, your opinions, your real desires. And how could they? You never show them. The tragedy is, most people pleasers are deeply empathetic, emotionally intelligent, and capable of rich, honest connection. But when you suppress your truth for the sake of keeping harmony, you end up building relationships that are emotionally lopsided and often unsustainable. Recovering from people-pleasing doesn't start with confrontation. It starts with awareness. You begin by noticing those tiny moments when your body tenses before you say yes. When you agree to something and immediately feel regret. When you laugh along but feel a sting in your chest. These are signals, your nervous system trying to tell you that you're out of alignment. And when you finally start listening to those signals, something powerful happens. You realize how often you've sacrificed your truth to maintain a false sense of peace. You begin to see that your discomfort isn't caused by other people. It's caused by your inability to honor yourself. That's the real price you've been paying. And the first step toward freedom is admitting it. Admitting that you're tired of shrinking, tired of swallowing words, tired of performing a version of yourself that never actually felt like home. But healing doesn't mean swinging to the other extreme and becoming rigid or unkind. It means learning to honor your needs with the same urgency you apply to everyone else's. It means saying no and not explaining yourself into exhaustion afterward. It means pausing before you respond, to check in with how you feel instead of defaulting to agreement. And it means being okay with the fact that not everyone will like the real you. That's the hardest part, because people-pleasing is often rooted in a deep fear. If I stop being who they want me to be, will they still love me? But real love, real connection, only happens when you show up as yourself. Unpolished, honest, imperfect. That's the trade-off. You lose the illusion of being liked by everyone, but you gain the freedom of being known. And in that freedom, your life finally begins to feel like your own. You don't need everyone to like you, but try telling that to your nervous system. The truth is, most of us fear disapproval far more than we realize. It's not just awkward, it feels dangerous. That sinking feeling in your stomach when someone frowns at your opinion. The racing thoughts after you say something that might not land well. The panic after you set a boundary. These reactions aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of wiring. Deep ancestral wiring that equates rejection with death. Thousands of years ago, to be cast out of the tribe was a death sentence. Our survival literally depended on being accepted. So now, even in the modern world, your brain still treats disapproval like a threat to your existence. This is why people-pleasing isn't just about being nice. It's about staying safe. From childhood, we're taught, often indirectly, that love is conditional. Be quiet and you'll be praised. Share your anger and you'll be punished. Make others comfortable and you'll be accepted. The fear of disapproval begins here, in these small but repeated lessons. It grows as we absorb what earns us belonging and what risks exile. The more sensitive or observant you are, the faster you pick it up. Eventually, avoiding disapproval becomes second nature. You start editing yourself before you even speak. You smile through discomfort. You say yes to keep things smooth. And if you're praised for being easygoing or good, it reinforces the pattern. But here's the hidden danger. Over time, you stop knowing where the real you ends and the performative version begins. Disapproval isn't just about others being upset with you. It's about your identity being at risk. Because if you've spent your whole life being liked for who you're not, what happens when you finally show who you are? The fear of disapproval doesn't just show up in big moments. It's baked into the smallest social interactions. You hesitate to share an unpopular opinion. You avoid making decisions that might confuse or disappoint your parents. You water down your dreams to seem more reasonable. Every choice is subtly filtered through the question, what will they think? And the moment you even imagine someone frowning, judging, or withdrawing from you, your body responds as if it's under real threat. Your heart races, your shoulders tense. You second guess yourself. It doesn't matter if the disapproval never actually comes. Just the possibility of it is enough to trigger your internal alarm system. That's how powerful this fear is. It shapes your tone of voice, your career path, the way you show up in relationships. You might think you're being strategic or respectful, but what's really happening is self-erasure dressed up as social intelligence. Ironically, the more you chase approval, the more fragile your sense of self becomes. Because every time you mold yourself to avoid rejection, you reinforce the belief that your real self isn't enough. That who you are, unfiltered, unpolished, is too much, too weird, too different. So you shrink. You present the version of yourself that's easiest to digest, but the price is steep. You start to feel hollow, disconnected, even resentful of, the people you've worked so hard to please. And here's the kicker. No matter how well you perform, you still can't control how others feel about you. You can say all the right things, do all the right things, and still be misunderstood, still be judged, still be disliked. The fear of disapproval tricks you into thinking you can outrun rejection, but in reality, it just prevents you from being fully alive. To move past this fear, you have to get really honest about what it's costing you. What ideas have you never shared? What relationships have you stayed in too long or avoided altogether because you feared being judged? What parts of your personality have you hidden just to stay agreeable? We like to think fear of disapproval is just a nuisance, but it's actually a thief. It robs you of authenticity, of creative expression, of deep, messy, real relationships. And it doesn't go away with logic. You can't just tell yourself it doesn't matter what people think and expect your nervous system to calm down. Fear doesn't respond to logic, it responds to safety. That's why the healing work is emotional, not intellectual. It means slowly teaching your body that disagreement isn't danger, that being disliked isn't the same as being unloved, and that your worth isn't up for negotiation every time someone else is uncomfortable. A big turning point happens when you realize that disapproval is unavoidable, not just sometimes, always. No matter how kind, thoughtful, or intentional you are, someone out there will misunderstand you, disapprove of you, judge you unfairly. And that's not a sign that you've failed. It's a sign that you've stopped molding yourself to fit everyone else's expectations. Think about the people you respect most. Chances are they have critics, they've ruffled feathers, they've said things that made others uncomfortable. That's not a flaw, that's a feature of living honestly. When you start tolerating disapproval, even in small doses, you begin to feel a strange kind of power. Not the loud, aggressive kind, but the grounded, quiet kind that comes from no longer needing everyone's permission to exist. That's when life opens up. That's when you open up. Learning to live with disapproval doesn't mean you become cold or careless. It means you stop abandoning yourself every time there's a hint of tension. It's not about being defiant. It's about being real. And that's uncomfortable, especially at first, because people will notice when you stop filtering your truth. They might ask what's wrong. They might say you've changed. And in a way you have. You've stopped curating your personality for public comfort. You've stopped agreeing just to keep the room calm, and the people who are only connected to your mask might fall away. That's painful, but necessary, because it clears space for people who love you for you, not for how well you serve their emotional preferences. Real connection can only happen when you let yourself be seen, and that requires risking being disliked. One of the most freeing realizations is this: disapproval doesn't hurt nearly as much as self-abandonment. When you betray your values, your boundaries, your voice, just to be liked, you end up carrying a pain that lingers far longer than someone's momentary judgment. The sting of being misunderstood is real, but it fades. What stays with you is the quiet ache of knowing you silenced yourself. That's the deeper injury. So the question becomes, whose approval are you living for? And what are you trading to get it? Because the truth is, every time you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim a little more of your life. You stand taller, breathe deeper. You may not be liked by everyone, but you will finally feel like yourself, and that is worth everything.